Welcome to another episode with your host, Robert E. Hansen, psychic medium, author, and public speaker.
Hi, welcome back. Today I'd like to share the story with you that is called The Little Girl Who Kept Running Away. This story takes place in southern India. As most of you probably know, India is a very, very heavily populated country, and many of the people who live in India unfortunately live on the edge of starvation almost on a daily basis. There are food establishments, there are orphanages, there are outreach programs in India for the homeless and the poor and the destitute. And this story is about one of these locations. There is a place called Kaligat, which is an orphanage and a center for which they take care of the sick and the dying. And they also offer food out to those who are willing to wait online, sometimes 2, 3, 4 hours, to receive a bowl of food, perhaps a little bucket of water, a little hug and a kiss, and off they go. But there are hundreds and hundreds of people daily that form these lines waiting for a piece of bread, just some fish, some rice, a simple piece of fruit just given to them to maintain their sustenance. The women that worked there noticed that every day this one particular little girl would show up, and like many other children, she would show up and put her hands out and ask for, please, may I have some food, may I have something to eat? And these wonderful workers would, of course, offer her a little bit of food, a little bowl of food, perhaps a piece of bread, and sometimes some nutrition and water or some other, perhaps a fruit drink or something. And they noticed that everyone else seemed to be sitting down almost immediately after they received their food and are so hungry they're eating the food right away. Right away. They're just eating it up, gobbling it up. But this little girl did not. And they noticed that every time she came, she would kind of rapidly walk, even run away to some point out of distance, and they never knew what happened to her. And a day or so later, she would come back, and there she was online again. And this went on for quite some time. So finally, one of the senior women at the facility said to some assistants, some other workers, volunteers, I want you to find out what this child is doing. She seems to come here, she gets our food, she disappears, she comes back a day later, 2 days later, and she does it again and again, and this seems to be repeating. Go find out what's going on. So, sure enough, the little girl shows up, out goes her hands, she makes a little prayer, she makes a thank you, and she is presented with some food, perhaps some rice, some fresh fruit, maybe a little bit of fish, some water to drink, and once again off she goes. But this time, 2 women quietly walk behind her, keeping distance, but absolutely keeping their eye on her. And they finally find her moving into a grove of trees. And they see at distance in this grove of trees, they see a woman sitting on a blanket, and at her side are 2 other small children. And they recognized right away this must be the child's mother and her 2 other siblings. And the mother was sitting there in a shawl. The other children were sitting there in their body wraps and little shorts and were very, very hungry. One of the women actually commented to the other woman, wow, they must be starving because they are shining with starvation, meaning they are so hungry. It's almost like there is a glow about them that they are that hungry. And the only shelter they have is sitting under this tree. This blanket and the tree above them is the place that they call home. They have nowhere else to go, and they are on the edge of starvation. So one woman says to the other woman, let's watch and see what happens. They're going to enjoy this meal. It's going to be great. But it doesn't happen. And they realize and they see that the mother of these children takes the food and distributes it in half. She places half on a leaf for her family, because they don't have plates. They use a big leaf, and they place the other half of this food on another leaf. The mother then says to this little girl who got the food from the beginning, take this food, she wraps it up in the leaf, take this food and bring it over there to the people living under the other tree, just down the road a little bit. And this little girl picks up this food, which they really, really wanted and needed, and she takes half of this food and brings it to another family, also starving and also so hungry, living down the road just a little bit and living under a different tree. The two women were in awe that this little girl took this food and brought it to somebody else. And they commented to each other saying, isn't this amazing that this mother and this little girl shared their food with another family? And the one woman said, yes, that is really, really beautiful to watch. Oh my God, how beautiful this is. But the other woman said, yes, that's beautiful to watch, but it is not really the miracle that has taken place here. And the other woman looks and says, am I missing something? What am I missing here? What am I missing? What is it I'm not noticing in this? And the other woman says, what really is the miracle is that this mother and her child, despite their terrible suffering, their terrible hunger, they saw another family who was suffering just as much. And despite their own suffering, they recognized the suffering in others and were willing to act upon that and share their heart and soul with another family. She said the miracle of giving, compassion, and humility was on full display. And this woman said, that is the miracle, to watch this child live by the words, please take care of the least of my brethren. If you do it as you do for them, you do unto me. This has to be one of the most beautiful stories I've ever heard. I just needed very much to share this with you guys. I hope you enjoyed this very beautiful short story. Thank you.